and it looks a little bit oxymoronic, making life insurance simple and easy to understand, isn't it? But let me still attempt. So let me give you a small story. And the story is that in the elections that went by, many elections, of course, happened, state elections, but many elections that went by, I was just reading through the EC data. The number of voters above 100 years of age who have voted, so it is not generic, people who are alive and kicking and voting, is upwards of 250,000. 2.5 lakh people above the age of 100 have voted in elections. Now guess the number of people who are voters between 80 to 100. You will not believe, it is near 2 crores. It is near 2 crores. It is around 2 crore voters between 80 to 100 who have voted, and we all know most don't vote. The final more interesting one, that this number is higher than the number of people who have voted between the age 20 and 29. Now you can say, of course, people are older, they vote more. That is one hypothesis. But the fact is that look at the demographics of our country. On one age, very, very young people. On the other age, aging. So when you look at India, India is not, and when we look at our own micro markets, we see that India is not one country. It has many Switzerland also embedded within our country. And there are many Africas also embedded within our country. So it is not really one country. When you look at it from a demographics perspective, it is not one country. When you look at it from a per capita perspective, it is not one country. It is easy to say that average per capita is this and average per capita is this, and then this will happen. It is not so. The spread and the distribution of everything is very, very wide. Let me give you another snippet, even more interesting. As she mentioned, I have been in BFSI for now upwards of 32 years. And earlier part of my life, I was in Treasury. Of course, I did 2 stints in Treasury, but earlier part, I was in Treasury. In 1996, when I was in Treasury, I bought 14%, so 10-year government securities at 14%. Unbelievable. 10-year government securities at 14%, 1996. And within 8 years, I have bought the same 10-year government security at 5/4. Look at the interest rate volatility. 14%, 5/4. And now one can say that, those were older times. Such things don't happen now. But you'll be surprised, and let me quote some of the numbers. You'll be surprised just pre-COVID, and you may say that it is COVID, and so it is like that. I'm reading it out. December 01. The 10-year government security again was 840. December 03, it had come down to 5%. And then from 5%, it kept moving up, up, up. December 06, around 830. And then it goes to almost 9.5% when the tightening was happening during global financial crisis. And then within 6 months, it drops to 5/4 again. So again, 9 to 5. And we think that equity is volatile. If we think equities is volatile, come to debt. And just now, in front of our eyes, that memories have not gone away. December 20, it was all moving at around 6%, and it goes up, 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 up. Now we know where it is. So when we look at retirement, the issue about retirement is that first, the social change. When do you start planning for retirement? First of all, when do you retire? Number one. Number two, if there is a date and there is a time of retirement, which in a formal system at least there is, in informal system there is none, then what do you mean by retirement? And then, what are the underlying social trends in retirement? And from a financial perspective, what do you do? So from a corpus building, there are only three variables. There are only केवल तीन चीजें हैं. Only three things. One is the amount of money that you have that you can start investing. Number one. Number two, the time that you have for investing. And third is what is the return. You know, anybody says anything. Finally, it is only three. Only three. Amount of money, the length that it will work for you, and the return, that's it. There is no fourth element. Then, if you look at the financial planning in very, very simple terms, the whole pyramid is getting very, very inverted. The first, you have a lifespan. We all understand lifespan. You are young, then you become teenager, and then you become old, etc., etc. There is also called a wealth span. Now think of a lifespan as a wealth span. Wealth span mein shuru mein there is no money. And then, you know, you have some income, but you want to take more and more people are taking loan against that, against future income. So actually it becomes negative a little bit. And then you pay off the loans, and by the age of 35, 40, then you start having surpluses, and then you move up. And so if you were to look at the cash flow in very simple terms and not complicating stuff, essentially first element is EMI. You cannot default any these days because of bureau scores and other things. You can't default. Just after that, you have other kind of semi expenses which you cannot again default, like fees, like house rentals. You cannot really default. You can move it a little bit here and there, but you can't really default. Then third is consumption, simple consumption for day-to-day living. Consumption, there will be a core consumption, and then there is a consumption of feel-good consumption. And then you have some surpluses left. Now, when you have the surplus, when you have large number of surpluses left, then you can do whatever. But if you have smaller surpluses left, which will be invariably during the initial period, then you don't know. You may require liquidity on that surpluses. And so what is the first thing that you have to do? Just like initially, you don't buy a house, you rent a house. Similarly, the first thing that everybody must do is to take protection. Protection against EMI. More than even before life. Protection for, so if you have taken a home loan of 1 crore or 50 lakhs, it's very important to take protection. And credit life, they are very, very cheap, 1.5%. And that too, you have to pay through EMI for 10 years. So hardly 10 paise ka kharcha hai, saal ka. So first protection always you have to take is against a loan. Because there are two kinds of EMIs that you pay. I mean, I am assuming that life insurance premiums is also like EMI. So if you are consuming, so you have gone on a holiday, so you have spent a lump sum, and now you are repenting and paying the EMIs. Second one is you pay EMI for a corpus building. These are two, एक graph ऐसा है, एक graph ऐसा है. Once you do that, then second thing is you have to hire. You take on rent protection. So you buy a term protection. Term protection मतलब क्या है? You take on rent. Now when we meet many of our customers, they say कि अरे ये तो कुछ है ही नहीं, इसमें तो कुछ फायदा ही नहीं, हमको कुछ पैसा वापस नहीं मिलता है टर्म में. But it is same as renting a house, no? When you are paying a rent, आपको कौन सा घर वापस मिल रहा है? आपको घर थोड़ी वापस मिलता है. So you rent a protection. इसको complicate कर दिया है. You know, death benefit. I mean, if any sector uses word like death benefit, it's very hard to sell. I mean, how do you sell? मतलब net product क्या है? कि if something happens to you, तभी आपको फायदा है, नहीं तो फायदा नहीं है. Those are not the kind of work. See, it is protection. And you take, जैसे vaccination लेते हैं, बचपन में हम vaccine देते हैं, वैसे ही protection है, nothing more. And the cost in the last 20 years has halved. Then of the surplus, then comes really retirement planning, because then of the surplus that you have, if you have very little surplus, the best place to go really is bank FD or mutual fund, because it is liquid, because you may require money. You may require money. And so you must put it there. And that is 10-15% of the income. The moment the surplus is more than 10-15%, you must start to build corpus. Corpus built over a big, longer period of time. And that is where you should buy insurance products. So you should buy insurance products for only two reasons. One is because it is tax effective, number one. Number two, it is also in some way, it disciplines you. And discipline is very, very important. I mean, yesterday, many of you might have seen the amphi data on SIPs, the gross and the net. The gross and the net SIPs are barely 50% of the gross SIPs. So when we say 8,000, 16,000 crores coming, the net SIP is only 8,000 crores. So if you're not disciplined, so discipline, what is discipline? Discipline बच्चे जैसा है. So if you have a kid and you say that no, I will give him full liquidity of time, तो बच्चा बोलेगा हमको खेलना है, you allow him to play. बच्चा बोलेगा आज मैं सोने जा रहा हूँ, you allow him to sleep. Full liquidity of time ना. Chances are बड़ा होकर निकम्मा ही बनेगा वो. Chances. मतलब of course there will be some very bright ones. That is why you require discipline. You require discipline because for long-term corpus building, you require time. And to have time, you must have discipline. You must have discipline. And so persistency of mutual fund and persistency of life insurance, in that persistency of life insurance is higher than persistency in mutual fund. Not because of anything else. It's just because the moment you see a corpus building up, you feel like buying a phone. Or you feel like upgrading your car. You feel like going for a vacation because it is liquid. Anything which is liquid will force you towards that. And so corpus building. And corpus building is very simple. You keep putting money aside and it keeps compounding. And the good thing is that if you take guaranteed products, then you get a long-term guarantee of 25, 30 years. Those kind of products are not available in BFSI at all. Because at the back end, you have to then do the hedging. You have to buy government securities. You have to make sure that it is all fully matched. And so long-term guaranteed products, and I just described to you the volatility of the interest rates. When my father retired in 1992, at that point of time, interest rates were much higher. And he put it in FD and he was very happy because he was getting 13, 14%. And what happens within 4, 5 years, because all bank FDs, etc., you do it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years only. There is no 10-year FD available. But when a time came for it to mature and you have to reinvest, already interest rates had fallen to 8%. And now, what happens is, your expenses are not going down. Your expenses are not going down. Your expenses are similar as per the inflation, and suddenly your reinvestment rate goes down. And then you don't know what to do. So there is another question which comes, having been on the other side also, on the mutual fund side and bank side and capital market side, that no, we should do SWP. SWP is systematic withdrawal plan. I have a corpus, I'll do SWP. Now, it is very good. There is no problem in SWP. Only thing that think of Japan. Last 35 years, index has remained the same. It went down, it halved. And this is, I'm talking of from 1994, 95, 96 to now, 30, 40 years. So a good thing to do is 50% you should buy annuities. 50% you keep it in SWP because if India is growing, it compounds, etc., etc. But 50% one must buy annuity. One must buy annuity for a very simple reason. Not because of anything else, that first you get a defined benefit kind of a pension. Number two, at least your basic cost has to be taken care of. That you cannot be exposed to the vagaries of the market. For a simple risk management purposes. Not because of, somebody is doing this, somebody is doing nothing. Basic, simple thing. So if your basic kharcha in a month is 25, 30,000, 50,000, 35,000, that much of annuity one must take. Because at least that is taken care of. Balance, you put it in SWP. Okay, if it does very well, you take a vacation to US. If it doesn't do well, you take a vacation to Southeast Asia. Simple है. If SWP does very well, पूरा दुनिया घूमो 15 दिन के लिए. नहीं अच्छा कर रहा है 7 दिन के लिए घूमो. But you cannot, your basic work, you cannot take care. The third thing I will only say is, also create a corpus for medical. The medical, if you see the medical graph, the cost of medical graph, it is higher when you are very young, because when you are an absolute kid, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, there is a lot of cost on medical. The moment you become teenager, it comes down to almost zero because you don't invest on medical. आप हट्टे कट्टे हो, आपका क्या? As you move up, the medical keeps increasing. Medical has two components. One is acute illness, and second one is critical illness. And so one should either have a corpus for both. And one should have a corpus because we all know medical is extremely expensive. And so while we are creating an annuity for that, one would say that one should also create an annuity for general medicines, which may be 5,000 per month, 6,000 or 10,000 per month. Generally, medicine ka one should buy an annuity because at least that medicine will keep coming. And then one should have a corpus, essentially for medical, for surgeries, for other things. Because out of 100 plus years, you know, there is another study that how many deaths above 80, this is not on 100 plus, above 80, how many deaths happen which have very small window of pain, means you don't fall ill for a long period of time. That number is only 7%. Well, lucky are the people who don't fall ill for a long period of time. That number is only 7%. 93% of people have extended illness. And they go through pain and they go through illness. And our studies are showing that although it is belying the actuality, is that our family will take care, our children will take care, one will take care, second will take care, third will take care. Actually, the problem is that now when we are looking at our own base and our own customers, the nuclearization of the family is not just happening within India, a massive nuclearization is happening across India. So there are many families where the next generation is in different countries. And you inflict then a lot of, one, of course, emotional trauma, but also financial trauma on the other side. Because where does the money come from? The money is then coming from the next generation. And next generation is not that keen financially, emotionally, and logistically to take care of that. So it is a very, very unmistakable trend. But still, 52% of our people, our customers are saying that, you know, we don't have to do anything because somebody will take care of that. The next question, who is that somebody and why will that somebody take, and whether they are financially equipped to take and logistically equipped, because they are different cities. Are they logistically equipped? Are they financially equipped? The answer is that they are no. So I think it is more hope than anything else. And so it is good to have, you know, annuities for basic kharcha, annuities for medical kharcha, one corpus for medical, another corpus, you know, for your critical illness, and ensure that, you know, you are largely self-sufficient. Because the other thing that will come up is nursing. Nursing needs are also coming up in a big way. Nursing needs can take 45, 50, 60,000 per month away, where you will require, you know, assistance for mobility, assistance for all this. And life insurance as an industry actually caters to everything. And one should not bother so much about claims, because if you were to look at claims now, it has vastly improved. You know, once upon a time, there could have been an issue on claims, but now the claims are, for us, for example, in our case, you know, we consistently top in ICICI Prudential claims. In 1.3 days, we are giving claims. These are all public data. I mean, this is not data that we are publishing. This is data which IRDA publishes. In 1.3 days, we are, doing that claims. 99% of the claims we settle. So maturity and survival benefits are very large. You know, every month we pay out crores and crores of rupees where the corpus is coming up. The riders of disability, you know, as against illness, disability is worse because it is really, really, really traumatic because you lose income generation and you require help. So that is another. So I would say that, you know, when you go back, just, you know, sit with your family and just note down this simple list. Don't complicate. Because, you know, insurance, I must admit, it's a very complicated industry and we have jargonized it in such a manner that लोग डर जाते हैं कि अरे ये क्या है I think it is very important आप लिखें कि what are the risks, What are the risks that we are exposed to, we could be exposed to? How do we manage the risk? How much? And you'll be surprised how little money is required if you allow it to run for 20, 30 years. You know, if you want to get that same corpus in 2 years, obviously you will require 100% return. वो कोई आने वाला नहीं है 100% return कहीं से. I mean, at 10-11% and ICICI and life insurance is tax advantaged industry because of the long-term nature. You know, with smaller corpuses, whenever you have, if you keep building, you know, you have a large corpus sort of which builds up. You know, you pay 10,000 every month, you know, suddenly you'll have a corpus of 1.5 crores, 2 crores. You know, people chase yields. That, you know, how much return are you giving? How much return are you giving? I mean, return, I'm telling you, is after going through everything. See, return, I'm not saying it is inconsequential. But above return is discipline. Above return is discipline, and above that is long-term compounding. So that is my only request to all of you. I'm very, very passionate about the subject because, you know, it is, in our country, we have a large set of population which needs to have protection on hire. There is also a very large population which requires corpus for retirement. And everybody requires corpus for health. Everybody requires corpus for health. So these three things, if we do, then we can enjoy life. And of course, you know, health is a function of our studies. It's a function of genes. It is function of activity. It is function of food. It is function of good discipline. A function of many, 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 many things. But genes is a very, very big sort of component of health. And we should not, we should not think that we will escape all of it. And once you write it down, just go across the family and write it down. And this is the best legacy planning. Best legacy planning क्या है? The other thing that we are seeing with businessmen is that अभी आजकल लोग पहले क्या है फ्लैट खरीदते थे. अभी आजकल बच्चा बोलता है नहीं हमको I don't want to stay in Ville Parle. I want to stay in Prabha Devi. So why have you brought me a flat in Ville Parle? Because all things, everything is changing, and you cannot sell the flat. So the other thing that we are seeing is that from a legacy planning, people are taking whole life policy, so that जब आँख बंद हो जाए भाई सबको corpus मिल जाए पैसा आप करो जो करना है आपको. So when you are earning, you put this aside. आप EMI भरते हो, just think of it as EMI. When the corpus happens, उसको पैसा मिल जाता है, वो पैसा मिल जाता है, जो मर्जी करे उसका, आपको भी शांति. So then at least, you know, in the olden times, I'll just end with this. I'm seeing times up here. But in the olden times, the way Europe became rich because they used to buy long-term policies. And when they were earning, they used to keep aside premium with only one condition, that my next generation has to be greater than equal to today by way of wealth accumulation. So they would create a corpus in their minds and they'll buy a whole time policy of that amount. And when they're working, they'll keep paying policy. And they think that it is like my operating expense to hand over next generation better than today's generation. It's a very simple way of doing it. It's not a complicated way of doing it. And from our side, from ICICI Prudential side, we are trying very hard to simplify stuff. You know, within 30 seconds, all our customers should be able to understand our products and be number one. We are doing now same-day issuances so that there is no complication. And like I said, you know, claim settlement, 1.2, 1.3 days. We are trying to bring it down even further because those are really the anxieties. And communicate in a simple manner because it is really a life thing that we all have to do. You know, forget the company for a moment, but it is something that all of us, you know, have to do. And we owe this responsibility, not just for self, but for our families, but for the society and for the nation. Because when something happens, and if relatives are supporting you, then it is relatives' economic trauma. It spreads to them. The financial trauma spreads to families. The financial trauma spreads to friends. You know, we can all support it by very, very small amount that we have to do. And कुछ खर्चा वर्चा नहीं है. एक दिन आप बाहर खाते हैं, उतने का ही प्रीमियम आ जाता है रेंटिंग में. So it's not very, very large. It's simple, and you get it, and you can then be self-assured. So thank you very much. Any questions you have?
Such incredible data points, Bagchi. Yes, I would, if you're okay with that, let's throw the floor open to. And let's just take one question before we break. Yes, sir. You've got to go for it. Just give me one quick second. I'll get the mic to reach you.
Hello, I'm Prasad. I'm just retiring as a director from one of the healthcare company. So my question is on medical insurance, because generally, medical insurance doesn't provide coverage after age of 65.
Yes.
And that too, if you have started early, well
Yes.
early, you get coverage up to 65. So what will be your advice? Because healthcare expenses are going up. So what will be your advice to protect ourselves on medical insurances?
सर उसका एडवाइस एक ही है कि 50 लाख का एक कॉर्पस मिनिमम बिल्ड कर लेना चाहिए हमको बचपन से. And 50 lakh corpus is nothing. You have to just keep aside 3,000, 4,000 rupees per month, 5,000 rupees per month, and you will get that kind of corpus over a long period of time. So first is, since you are from that industry, you know that you have to first enter early in health insurance. The good thing is that health insurance is now widespread, and many people are taking health insurance. But critical illness, see, the issue is in critical illness. That is where the big thing is. Critical illnesses are much cheaper. So you can choose the 14, 15 critical illnesses and just buy a critical illness rider with your insurance policy. That's a much better way of managing this. But in any case, keep 25 lakhs to 50 lakhs of corpus with you. And again, it's a very debatable thing that, but you must discuss with your family what happens if there is a critical illness that happens. Should you prolong, like we have had that discussion in our family, with my parents I have had that discussion. Should we put it in ventilator, not put it in ventilator? What do you do? This discussion I think is an important social discussion that one must have. Because, the amount of money, and it is not, unnecessary blame kabhi healthcare pe aa jata hai. But healthcare, what can they do? Their inflation is also increasing. Everywhere inflation is increasing. So, a corpus bana ke rakhna. But buy insurance first and keep it. Buy critical illness rider definitely, in addition to the normal, because 4 lakhs, 8 lakhs mein kuch nahi hone wala hai, critical illness ho gaya to. The amounts are now 25 lakhs, 50 lakhs. And also build a corpus on the side. Corpus building is not much. 5,000 per month, you can build a corpus. There is no problem. As I said, 3 चीज बस याद रखना है corpus building के लिए. The length, the slope, which is the return that you get, and the amount of money that you start. That's it.